In this video, I want to discuss two subjects. One is why sexual violence is enforced on the human population by those that rule the world behind the scenes. And the second subject is black magic from South Asia. I'm combining these two subjects in one video because they relate well to one another and because sexual violence is part of the black magic of South Asia. Now, as explained before, sexual dysfunction is the throne of Antichrist. That's the beast, as well as the beast system. So for the beast system to continue keeping the human population but for them to continue to have a grip on the human population, they need the human population to be in a state of anxiety collectively. Okay? And the way to do this is by enforcing sexual confusion. How do they do this? They first come with a sword, and afterwards they promote homosexuality. That's how they do it. They first come with a sword, and the sword warms people up in a traumatic manner. So people become shocked by the sword. The sword can either be a military conflict or it can be violent crime on the streets. They warm the people up so people are shocked already, and then in that state of shock, they'll come with role models to promote sodomy. And once sodomy is promoted, it deforms the perception of individuals in that community or that society, and because of that, they can't function properly anymore. So the relationships between men and women become distorted, dysfunctional, and often abusive. And what happens is that this dysfunction is transferred to the next generation unconsciously, and that's how the demons are secured of their supply, because demons feed off of negative energy that comes from human beings. So sexual confusion is a very important policy for the Apollonians. Without it, they have no rule. Let me repeat that. Without the enforcement of sexual confusion on the human population, or sexual dysfunction, or confusion, or mystery, or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to use confusion now, because that's really what it is. Without that, they have no pagan rule. Almost none of their governments would remain standing. The international economy would collapse, and as well as international politics. So the enforcement of sexual confusion is very important. So all the pagan businessmen that want to remain great in this world, they need to invest in sexual confusion. They have to, because they depend on that dysfunction in the human population. Because without that dysfunction, they cannot retain that grip they have on the community, because they're only rich because of that grip they have on the human community. I hope this help you understand this. So what this has to do with black magic of South Asia. I've spoken about warlocks in general. I've spoken about East Asian black magic and how that relates to white supremacy. Now, this whole Apollonian thinking of whiteness is also prevalent in South Asia. Today, you also have many bleaching services in South Asia also. But besides this, there's a lot of violence against women in South Asia. Not just in India, but in South Asia in general. It's not everywhere, as if everyone is involved in it, but it's very big there. You have gangs there that go around raping young girls and after they're left behind dead. Those are rituals. That's the sword that Apollonians bring to the community, and people are shocked, they're traumatized. Okay? So that happens. When that's going on, then they'll come with the promotion of sodomy. Look at it carefully in the world. Everywhere where the sword king, where it's form of a military conflict or a violent crime on the streets, shortly afterwards you'll have those promoters of sodomy appearing there. Why? Because that's the plan. Well, in South Asia it goes like this. There is deep Apollo worship going on in South Asia. Yes. Not that deep as in East Asia, because East Asians are very fanatic for the beast, very, very fanatic. But in South Asia, they're also fanatic, but I won't say that they are better than the East Asians, but the South Asians are also fanatic, but in a lesser degree. Okay, they're a bit more calm, but they're still doing it. In South Asia, because they adhere to the beast, they want the women to be in a state of shock. And it's expected in society that women have this position. Women even praised and rewarded for being in a shocked position mentally. So this causes a big dysfunction in the societies over there, or in the communities in South Asia. By the way, when I'm saying this video also counts for Southeast Asia to some extent, because there's not, when it comes to the paranormal, there isn't that much of a difference between South Asia and Southeast Asia. So in South Asia, that's going on, but they need to cope with this dysfunction against females. How do they do it? There is a pattern that's common over there, and you can also see it in the migrant communities of South Asians, whether it's a Hindu community in the Caribbean, or in London, or in the Netherlands, or maybe from a minority of South Asia. You see this pattern that keeps recurring with them, is that you have those witches who are bitter, and they take out their bitterness on other women of the same community. So you will have this grandma figure, and outsiders looking at that woman thinking, oh, she's a cute elderly woman. She smiles all the time. She's so happy. She's a bitter witch. She doesn't want to face the dysfunction against females of her own community. She doesn't want any solutions. She doesn't want to be delivered from it. She wants to take revenge. How does she take revenge? By embracing the darkness, and now by dumping that darkness or that frustration on other women in that community. It was done onto her, so now she wants to take it out on the younger ones. So we will have those dominant women who don't dare to be dominant against men, because if they try that, they are smacked around. But they will be very bitter or very controlling towards other women in that community. And then you have the men who don't mind it at all, as long as the men are relieved. Because the men are often operating in energetic homosexuality. I'm not saying they're active in physical homosexuality, but energetically they operate in sodomy, because they demand on the firm hand of an older man. And it's very common in such communities that the father figure of a household has the right to abuse and mistreat the younger men of that household, even if those younger men are adults and they're married with their own families. It's expected for them to bend over and take the mistreatment and the harm. Their manhood depends on pleasing that older male figure, no matter how wrong that male figure is. That's devil worship right over there. So you have the men who don't actually operate spiritually as a man should. This leaves the women dysfunctional. And it is in this dysfunction that witches take over, and they keep the females in a bitter grip. Now, this is not an absolute thing. Of course not. No social phenomena is absolute. Okay? There are South Asians that see this pattern, they see through it, and they want to stay away from it. And there are even South Asians, actually there are quite many in number, who are born again and who are delivered. Okay? But look at this. In South Asia, if you are a believer walking by faith, be careful. I'm saying be careful to put fear in you. No, I'm telling you to be careful. Why? Because you have many fake believers. You have many of those witches who are bitter, that pretend to be female believers. They will come to devour you. Yes. And in South Asia, it often happens that believers are attacked physically, because the people are cowards. They don't want to face things in their own community. They have hundreds of gods over there. They even have they even had a temple for rats. Okay, so you see this temple of rats, you see rats going all over the place. And you think, what's going on there? Is this an abandoned building? No, it's a temple for rats. You have you have places where they have this yearly ritual where they pick up dung from cows. And I'm not kidding. There's even a YouTube video by some news station. Um, it's all available about it. They pick up dung, they collect dung from cows, and they pick it up and throw it at each other for good fortune. You have all these weird, dehumanizing things that are going on there. They rely on so many things, yet their communities are dysfunctional. They throw cow dung towards one another, but does a good fortune come? No. They have a temple for rats. Do the rats help them? Do the rats answer their prayers? No. They have so many dysfunctional things that are going on. They don't want to seek deliverance from it. They don't want to see through it. They don't want to face it. But when you are a believer walking by faith, oh man, you are in trouble. And that's why they remain accursed. Because remember what Christ said to Abraham: I will bless those that bless you, and I will curse those that curse you. So when you're a believer walking by faith, you are walking in love towards everyone, including predators that come after you, because you obey Christ. When you're walking by faith and you have communities where people keep praying on you, what's going to happen? God keeps his word. God will make sure that the negativity they agree on you will destroy them openly. The Lord is not going to pick up a rod and smite them around. The Lord ain't doing it. The Lord has some darkness in him. The filth they are producing against you, the Lord will make sure that that filth will remain on them and they will be destroyed by it, by their own efforts publicly. That's what the Lord will do. And that's why in South Asia there's so much poverty. When the British came over there, I'm not saying there was no poverty before the British came, but when the British came there were tiny kingdoms here and there, and I believe there was one empire of there. There was also an Islamic state over there also. So you had a collection of kingdoms and tribes over there. The Portuguese came, had to build settlements, the Danish, the Dutch. When the British came, the British wanted to take over. And through contracts and through deals and some warfare here and there, the British took over. And the British made South Asia into one country called the Empire of India. So the King of Great Britain also became the Emperor of India separately. And they really made it into a big country. And it was actually an empire because you still had the local kings there who were beneath the British king. So it was an empire. And there was prosperity for them. When the British left, it fell apart. Instead of facing that the British administration, which was led by the Rothschild dynasty, and the Rothschild dynasty is controlled and owned by the Jesuits, so instead of facing that the British Empire robs them and dealing with the British, they began to take it out on the weaker ones amongst them. And now, even many of the weaker ones are joining them against believers. And here's the thing with South Asian black magic. It's the type of black magic that works the best. Let me say this: gaslighting is how this black magic functions. This counts for Southeast Asia also. If you know the political and historical situation of Southeast Asia is a bit different, but it also counts for Southeast Asia. Gaslighting is a common thing in South Asian societies. Now, what is gaslighting, in case you don't know it? Gaslighting is when something happens and your brain registers that it happens, but someone else wants to fool you as if it didn't happen. So they want to cause confusion in your mind. So let's say you arrive somewhere and someone looked very dirty at you. They didn't even say hi to you. And later, that individual is telling everyone else that you are very rude, you don't greet people. But then you confront the individual saying, but when I greeted you, you didn't answer back. The individual said, yes, I did. No, that didn't happen. I was on the greeting. You're the one being so abusive. So what happens now? The individual plays a mind trick on you, and if there are enablers around, instead of dealing with the perpetrator, the enablers will join the perpetrator, and they will also agree with the perpetrator against you, even though the perpetrator is lying. That's gaslighting. Gaslighting works the best if there are enablers. So gaslighting is often done collectively. Now, gaslighting is the thing in South Asia because South Asian black magic is mainly gaslighting. You convince the people that there is prosperity or that such things are becoming better, even though obviously the opposite is happening. But because people are in a state of shock, they can't process that they're being lied to. You see a similar thing in suicide calls or in doomsday calls. For example, the Jim Jones calls, where people end up committing suicide, was just like that. It's obvious that what that man was saying, Jim Jones, that it didn't add up. But because people were in this state of shock, and the shock was so intense, they couldn't process that the man was lying to them. So they were conditioned to follow the man, even if it meant killing themselves. And that's what happened. That that happens through gaslighting. Gaslighting can go that far. So in South Asian black magic, gaslighting is the norm. So I've explained that in the West, amongst the Caucasians, there is this denial. Folks realize something is wrong, but they just don't want to talk about it. They avoid it. In East Asia, they don't even know what's going on because the black magic there's a blinding effect. In South Asia and also Southeast Asia, there's a gaslighting effect. So when you're dealing with, I would say, when you're dealing with South Asian black magic, you're dealing with intense gaslighting. That's the only way it can work. And because the gaslighting is all that you've been exposed to, you don't know any better. That's why believers that see through it and walk by faith free from it, they receive the biggest backlash. Because that's what you need to understand with a trauma victim that's been affected by gaslighting. If you've been lied to your whole life by everyone you knew, and if violence against you, psychological violence, maybe even sexual violence has been condoned by the community against you your whole life, and you haven't known anything better, and then you encounter someone who reveals this to you, maybe not by saying it, but by their actions and how they live, you can realize that there is better. And once you realize there's better and you look at the better, once you look into the better, your eyes are cleansed, and then you reflect back and see, whoa, what for filthiness was that I grew up in? Now, someone that's been gaslighted, they have a very time handling this, seeing the filth they've been brought up in. So likely, they don't want to see the filth they grew up in. So when you're the one free from the filth, they will explode on you. Because it's easier to explode on you than it is to ask those gaslighters, than to bring those gaslighters to account, because those gaslighters will likely become violent and it may become homicidal. So it's easier to turn on you. This doesn't only count for South Asia or Southeast Asia, it counts everywhere. If someone has been gaslighted their whole life over and over again, don't expect that they come with the solution or with solutions that they're going to be happy to receive you. Eventually, they will have to receive you or receive what you have to offer for their own well-being. But if they don't, then they're becoming reprobates and they've made a choice to destroy themselves. Then that's not your fault. You just shake dust off your feet and continue because they've chosen to become dangerous. That's why you even have many young women who join supremacist cults in South Asia, defending a culture that hates women. Now, I'm not saying all South Asians hate women. Remember, you have many ethnicities in South Asia. I'm not saying that at all, okay? But there's this cultural pattern in that area that's against females, okay? But you have young women who are very militant in defending those cultures and those uh, anti-female patterns. Why? Because they are gaslighted. A woman from the West or from Africa may, or maybe from Latin America, may look at it and think, what's wrong with those women? Can't they see that what they're defending is hating them? They, they're gaslighted. Look, when you're in denial, you just avoid something. You just push something away. When you're blinded, you don't even see something is there. When you're gaslighted, you can't handle that something is there. So you automatically do something completely different so that you won't have to face what's there. And this doing something else because you can't handle what's there is what breeds this fanatic attitude. So this fanatic attitude is the result of the gaslighting. It's not out of their own volition or their own joyous, let me say, their joyous dedication. Even though they think it is, because the gaslighting even causes you to think that when you are pushing against something, that it's really your interest, even though it's just a coping mechanism. So how do you break South Asian Black Magic? By the way, I call it South Asian Black Magic because this is the type of Black Magic often used around the population. You just see through it. With all Black Magic, you need to see through it. And once you see through it, that's already a victory. That's actually the half of the solution. The other solution is to remove yourself from the patterns. Remember, sexual confusion is the throne of Antichrist. Without it, they can't govern the world. But without that, there is no world. Let me repeat that. Without sexual confusion, there is no world. Without it, there is no Hollywood. There's no Disney. There are no international relations. Without it, there are no multinational corporations. Without it, you have no capitalism. So, without sexual confusion, they have nothing. So they will fight militantly. They will fight, and they will use all the violence they have to protect sexual dysfunction in the human population. So, if you want to be praised and embraced by the world, you need to be fake. You need to forfeit God's natural design, Adam and Eve, male and female. You have to be against the good design of the Most High for you to be accepted and embraced and be sponsored by this world. If you're real, if you're embracing God's natural design, you get, let's say this, you're put in the bin. You're treated as trash. You receive no crown, no cake, no sponsorship, nothing. Only those who embraced abomination are praised by the world. Apollo demands it. Satan demands it. The demons embrace it. Sexual confusion, that's the throne of Antichrist. Without it, they have nothing. So you need to get along with the abomination to be praised. If you don't want to, then expect tribulation. But that's why Christ said, be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. Walk in his power, agree with Christ.